The greatest mistake people make is thinking they are only coming against a person. But when someone rises to fight a chosen one, they are not simply confronting a human being, they are confronting a divine purpose. You were not placed here by accident. You were assigned, chosen, covered, and when life tries to break someone like you, it is not just facing your strength, it is running into your calling. There is something written over your life that cannot be erased by opinions, betrayal, or delay. That divine assignment you carry is why you rise again and again. Some individuals tried to push you into silence. Some hoped you would disappear, but they did not realize that every time you went quiet, heaven was working in the background. You were not being defeated, you were being rebuilt, repositioned, refined. You were gaining clarity while others were underestimating you. The moment they thought you were gone was the moment your purpose began to awaken. And now they are realizing it. One by one, the same mouths that spoke against you are falling silent. The same people that counted you out are witnessing your comeback. And this time, it is not personal. It is divine. When someone tries to interrupt your destiny, they are not just making a mistake. They are positioning themselves as an obstacle to something sacred. And when that happens, the universe responds, not in revenge, but in revelation. You do not need to fight to prove yourself. Your existence is already proof. They found out the hard way. You are not broken. You are chosen. And chosen ones cannot be defeated because what holds them up is not pride. It is purpose. There are certain people on this earth who are not just surviving life. They are walking through it with a quiet strength that cannot be explained. These people are not defined by what happened to them. They are defined by what rises within them every time they fall. These are the chosen ones. And if you are hearing this right now, it is no coincidence. You are one of them. You did not become strong by accident. You were formed in fire. You were carved out of hardship and molded through spiritual preparation. What others saw as your breaking point was actually your becoming point. You carry a different kind of strength, a divine type of strength that cannot be taught in schools or explained through logic. It is written into your spiritual DNA. When others bend under pressure, you discover your next level inside it. It is not because you are better than them, it is because you were built differently. You were not just created for comfort. You were created to overcome. And that is what makes you unstoppable. Life tried to take you down more than once. People misunderstood your silence. They called it weakness. But in truth, your quiet seasons were the most powerful. Because during those times, God was downloading updates into your soul, preparing you for something greater. Just like a phone receives an upgrade in silence, your spirit was being upgraded behind the scenes. You were receiving a divine iOS update while others thought you had shut down. The world saw you still, but heaven saw you being restructured, restored, strengthened. It was never over for you. It was only a pause so that something more powerful could be installed within you. That is why you are here now, rising again with clarity, with purpose, and with a fire they did not see coming. The people who left you thought you would never come back. The ones who laughed at your breakdown assumed you were finished. But the truth is this: God was just preparing the stage for your return. And this time, you are not just coming back. You are coming back different, sharper, wiser, heavier with spiritual weight. You are no longer trying to prove who you are. You are walking in it now. You see, the chosen ones do not ask for permission to be great. They simply align with the greatness they were born with. They do not force open doors. They speak to doors, and the doors recognize their authority. They do not fight for attention, because the light of purpose makes room for them wherever they go. And that is you. You are not here to chase validation. You are here to carry revelation. You are not here to beg for a seat at the table. You are the table. And even when people tried to throw stones, you used those stones to build your altar. You prayed through pain. You grew in places no one saw. And now your growth is undeniable. What once tried to bury you has become the very soil that raised you. Every challenge you faced was not meant to destroy you. It was sent to shape you. Every delay you experienced was not rejection. It was redirection. Heaven had a better timing, a greater elevation, and a more powerful unveiling. Now look at you. You are glowing with the evidence of divine survival. You are carrying the kind of peace that cannot be faked. You are becoming the proof that spiritual alignment is stronger than human opposition. And the best part? You never had to fight alone. Every step you took, you were guided. Every prayer you whispered, heaven heard it. Every tear you cried, it watered something inside you. And now the fruit is showing. Now the light is pouring out of you. You were never abandoned. You were never forgotten. You were never overlooked. You were chosen. So, let them wonder how you survived. Let them question how you stayed standing. Let them try to figure out how you did it without clapping back, without losing your mind, and without giving up. They will not understand it, because what kept you alive was not pride. It was purpose. What made you strong was not revenge. It was revelation. And what lifted you was not people, it was God. So if this speaks to your spirit, let it sink in deeply. You are not just protected, you are prepared. You are not just supported, you are selected. And you cannot be beaten, because you were never built to fall, you were built to fulfill destiny. If you're feeling this in your spirit, drop 77 in the comments. That's the number of spiritual completion, divine victory, and karmic reversal. Each lesson builds the prophetic theme. You cannot be beaten because the opposition strengthens you. 1. They mistook your silence for surrender. There are seasons in life where the most powerful thing you can do is remain quiet. But in a world that often values loudness and performance, your silence was misunderstood. Some people assumed that your stillness was weakness. They believed that because you did not respond, you had no response. They saw your lack of reaction and assumed you had given up. But chosen one, silence is not surrender. Silence is sacred. When you chose to remain quiet, you were not retreating, you were resetting. You were aligning your spirit with a greater source of wisdom and truth. While others were speaking out of emotion, you were receiving divine instruction. Even Jesus remained silent in front of those who falsely accused him. That silence was not fear. It was power under control. It was strength wrapped in stillness. Likewise, your quiet season was not a defeat. It was preparation for something bigger. They did not know that while you were silent, you were healing. You were growing. You were listening to your inner voice instead of reacting to outside noise. And now that you have risen, they are shocked, because they thought you were done, but you were just getting started. 2. They weaponized your past. Every chosen one has a history. There are moments, mistakes, and memories that shaped who you are. But some people decided to use those past experiences against you. They thought they could disqualify your future by highlighting your former self. They tried to define you by who you used to be. They brought up the old chapters, hoping the world would ignore the new one. They reminded others of your failures, your setbacks, your moments of weakness, as if those moments were the end of your story. But they did not understand that your past is not a prison. It is a platform. It is not something that disqualifies you. It is something that proves you are real. You have walked through fire, and you have come out refined, not burned. The same past they tried to shame you with has now become the reason people listen to you. Your transformation carries weight because it is rooted in experience. You speak from a place of authenticity, and that cannot be faked. In the Bible, Paul was once Saul, a man who persecuted Christians. But after his divine encounter, he became one of the greatest voices in the early church. God did not erase his past. He used it. And that is exactly what is happening in your life. The people who tried to weaponize your past did not realize they were only highlighting how far you have come. Your past does not hold you back. It testifies to your resilience. It shows that if grace can reach you, it can reach anyone. 3. They tried to hack your frequency. Your spirit carries a frequency. It is an energy, a vibration, a divine alignment that cannot be mimicked. When you walk into a room, something shifts. Not because you are loud or trying to be noticed, but because your presence carries light. Your frequency is encoded with purpose. There were people who sensed that. Even if they could not explain it, they felt it. And some, instead of respecting it, tried to manipulate it. They tried to get close to you, not to learn, but to interfere. They studied your patterns. They mirrored your words. They tried to imitate your energy in hopes of accessing the same favor you carry. But what they did not understand is that your frequency is not something that can be copied. It was not created by trend or talent. It was formed through pain, purified through isolation, and activated by divine timing. No one can hack what heaven has encrypted. They sent confusion, doubt, and emotional triggers. They hoped to disturb your peace, lower your vibration, and make you question yourself. But what they did not account for was your spiritual armor. They did not know that you were protected not just physically, but mentally and emotionally. Every attempt to distort your energy only strengthened your awareness. You began to notice patterns. You discerned intentions. You grew more selective about who you allowed into your space, not out of fear but out of wisdom. Now you are guarded by light. You do not need to announce your boundaries because your energy speaks for you. You walk with clarity. You move with discernment. And those who once tried to confuse your mind are now confused themselves. Because no one can impersonate purpose, and no darkness can dim the light that God placed within you. For they mocked your process. In a world that celebrates quick success, people often overlook the beauty of divine timing. When your process did not move at their speed, some began to laugh. They joked. They whispered behind your back. They said things like, "He is still trying," or "She thinks something will come from that." What they did not understand is that God is not rushed, and neither is the making of a chosen one. They saw you building when there was nothing to show. They saw you planting seeds with no sign of harvest. But you were not working for applause. You were moving under instruction. Just like Noah, who built the ark when no rain had fallen, you obeyed even when the process looked foolish to others. And now that your floodgates are opening, the ones who mocked you are silent. Because what they laughed at is now standing tall. What they doubted has become undeniable. You followed the voice of purpose, and now the evidence is beginning to speak for itself. Never let the laughter of others distract you from your instruction. The very ones who laughed will one day quote your wisdom. They mocked your process because they could not see your promise. But heaven saw it clearly, and that is all that ever mattered. 5. They abandoned you when it got hard. There comes a time in every chosen one's life when the crowd disappears. The phone stops ringing. The room gets quiet. And suddenly, you look around and realize that the people you thought would stay forever walked away when the road got heavy. They were there for the celebration but not for the challenge. They could handle your joy, but not your journey. And when the storms began to hit, they stepped back. Some even said they would return later, after the winds had passed. But they never came back. And you know what? That was a blessing in disguise. Because in that silence, you found the presence of God more clearly. In that absence, you heard your soul's cry more deeply. You stopped depending on people and started depending on divine direction. David wrote in the Psalms, "Even if my father and mother forsake me, the Lord will receive me." And you have lived that truth. You learned to walk alone, but you were never truly alone. The ones who abandoned you made room for clarity. Their exit made space for your growth. And now you no longer walk with bitterness. You walk with wisdom. You bless them, but you do not need them, because the one who called you never left your side. 6. They could not trap your mind. People may try to limit your actions. They may try to restrict your movement. But the most dangerous thing someone can attempt is to trap your mind. That is where your true power lives. There were those who tried to speak fear into you. They questioned your path. They planted seeds of self-doubt. They tried to twist your view of yourself. They wanted you to second-guess your worth, your value, your calling. But you did not give in. Because deep inside, your mind was anchored in something bigger than opinions. It was anchored in vision, purpose, destiny. Just like Nelson Mandela, who spent decades in prison yet remained mentally free, you refused to be mentally caged. You educated yourself, healed yourself, and strengthened your inner world even while the outside looked limited. Romans 12 verse 2 says, "Be transformed by the renewing of your mind." That is exactly what happened in your life. While they tried to bring you down with words, you lifted yourself with truth. You rewrote the narrative. You spoke life into your own being when no one else would. Now your mind is your greatest weapon. They cannot trap what is free. You are mentally unstoppable, spiritually disciplined, and emotionally balanced. That is why you rise, because your thoughts are rooted in heaven, not in fear. 7. They are tied to your elevation. Some of the very people who tried to sabotage your journey are the same people God is using to elevate you. Yes, their attempt to hurt you has become the tool that lifts you. This is one of the most mysterious principles of being a chosen one. The attack was not sent to stop you, it was allowed to shape you. The betrayal you experienced did not block your path. It revealed it. Judas is remembered as the one who betrayed Jesus. But his betrayal was part of the prophecy. Without Judas, the cross would not have happened. Without the cross, there would have been no resurrection. Likewise, your betrayers were not interruptions. They were confirmation. They are now tied to your testimony. Their attempt to push you off track only pushed you into alignment. Psalm 23 verse 5 says, "You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies." This is not just poetic language, it is a spiritual reality. Your enemies were required to witness your elevation. They were sent not to block the table, but to highlight it. So now you rise, not in revenge, but in revelation. You understand that some people had to walk against you so you could walk into your assignment. They thought they were hurting you, but they were helping the prophecy unfold. God is using what they meant for harm to position you for honor. And your rise is not just personal. It is purposeful. 8. They thought the delay meant denial. When your life slowed down, when your plans did not unfold the way others expected, when you disappeared for a while, people began to talk. Some whispered that you missed your moment. Others believed you were finished. They confused divine delay with denial. But what they failed to see is that delay is not defeat. Delay is refinement. In the story of Abraham and Sarah, the promise of a child came, but the child did not arrive for many years. People surely questioned them, but God was not on their clock. He was on his own. Your delay was not wasted time. It was a divine waiting room where strength was being built in secret. God hid you on purpose. While others rushed ahead chasing noise, you were being rooted in truth. They thought you were falling behind, but you were actually stepping into perfect alignment. God was removing the distractions, testing your faith, and sharpening your focus. The delay prepared you for what the promise requires. Now that the door is opening, the blessing is undeniable. Not rushed, not fragile, but mature and secure. They thought the silence meant the story was over. But the delay was actually the setup for a greater unfolding. And when heaven says now, no force on earth can stop what is written. 9. You are a spiritual weapon. There is something powerful about someone who has been through the fire and still walks with peace. Someone who has seen darkness, but still carries light. Someone who has been tested by pain, but still speaks life. That person is you. You are not just a survivor. You are a spiritual weapon, a vessel of strength, forged in pressure, molded by experiences, and refined by purpose. They thought that breaking you would silence your voice. But what they did not understand is that your voice was never rooted in ease. It was birthed through struggle. Your perspective carries weight because you have lived what others only imagine. In the book of Jeremiah, God tells the prophet, "They will fight against you but will not overcome you." That word is still true today. Your existence is proof of divine protection. The enemy has tried to knock you down more than once, but each time you rose stronger. You were not built to crumble. You were built to carry. Your mind is sharp. Your spirit is anchored. Your presence changes atmospheres. That is not ego. That is purpose. So when people attempt to come against you spiritually, they are not fighting just flesh and blood. They are confronting something heaven has approved. And nothing forged against divine approval will succeed. You are more than protected. You are activated. You are dangerous to darkness. You are called for such a time as this. 10. They tried to exile you, not knowing God hides his best. There were moments when people pushed you out of circles. They closed doors, ended connections, and excluded you from conversations. They made you feel like you were on the outside looking in. What they did not know is that God does his best work in hidden places. Moses was called to deliver a nation, yet he was sent into the wilderness first. David was anointed to be king, but he returned to the field to tend sheep before stepping into the palace. Being pushed out was not a punishment. It was protection. God removed you from certain rooms because those rooms were not worthy of your anointing. They thought they were rejecting you, but in truth, God was redirecting you. In that place of exile, you discovered your own voice. You stopped performing. You started healing. You reconnected with your soul's purpose. You realized that isolation is not always loneliness. It is sometimes divine intimacy. Now that you are returning, you are not coming back to beg for entrance. You are coming back prepared to lead. They pushed you away without knowing they were placing you into position. God hides his best not to withhold them, but to protect them until the appointed time. And now your time is near. 11. You resurrected. There was a moment where even you wondered if this was the end. You were tired, wounded, empty. You felt as though the weight was too much and the road too long. To the world, it looked like you had fallen. Some believed you would never get back up. But what they saw as your end was only the beginning of something divine. Just like Lazarus, who was laid in the tomb, your life had a moment of pause, a moment of stillness, a moment when people walked away, assuming it was over. But then the voice came, the divine call, the breath of God, and everything began to shift. You rose, not just back to where you were, but higher, stronger, wiser. This was not a comeback. This was a resurrection, a rebirth, a complete spiritual transformation. Your steps are different now. Your tone has changed. You no longer walk to survive, you walk to fulfill. People are watching in awe because they thought your story ended in a grave. But your testimony is rising on a platform. Your past cannot bury your calling. What God has breathed into cannot be silenced by man. You are living proof that resurrection is not just a miracle. It is a process that transforms everything. And the best part? You are just getting started. 12. They wanted you to doubt yourself. There is nothing more unsettling to people who are insecure than someone who walks in quiet confidence. That is why they targeted your mind. Not because you were weak, but because you were rising. Because they saw something in you that they could not explain, and it intimidated their comfort zone. So what did they do? They planted seeds of doubt. They asked questions laced with judgment. They made comments masked as concern. They projected their own limitations onto your vision. They said, "Are you sure this is for you? Or maybe you should play it safe." What they were really saying was, "Your courage reminds me of my fear. But chosen one, you did not come this far to second-guess what God confirmed." Doubt may have knocked on the door, but it did not unpack its bags. You felt the weight of uncertainty, but you never surrendered to it. The enemy does not try to shake what is not dangerous. The very fact that your identity was under attack proves how powerful it is. In the wilderness, even Jesus was tempted. His identity questioned, "If you are the Son of God," that same spirit came after you. But just like Jesus responded with truth, so did you. You remembered who you are. You stood in your calling. You chose alignment over approval. You did not lose yourself, you found yourself again and again. And now that doubt has no power over you. You are not easily shaken anymore. You are rooted, planted, elevated. What they hoped would confuse you has only clarified you. What they hoped would weaken you has fortified your faith. And your belief in yourself is no longer borrowed, it is built. 13. They became part of your testimony. One of the most powerful things about being a chosen one is that your life does not just impact you, it speaks to others. And sometimes, the very people who tried to hurt you end up becoming part of your testimony. At first, their actions felt painful. The betrayal, the sabotage, the gossip, it all cut deep. You wondered why it had to happen the way it did. Why would God allow certain people so close, only for them to wound you? But as time passed, you began to see the bigger picture. Their rejection pushed you closer to God. Their betrayal taught you boundaries. Their denial forced you to discover your inner strength. You would have never gone that deep without the pain. You would have never grown that strong without the resistance. They became unwilling participants in your transformation. Just like Joseph's brothers who sold him into slavery, thinking they were ending his dream, those very brothers ended up bowing before him years later in Egypt, not knowing they had helped position him for his purpose. That is what is happening in your life. The ones who tried to break you were actually the ones who built the bridge. And now, as you share your story, their part cannot be erased. But instead of it hurting you, it empowers you. You do not speak their names with bitterness. You speak them with testimony. Because the wound turned into wisdom, the pain turned into power, and their attacks became proof that no weapon formed against you can prosper. They are not your enemies. They are your evidence. 14. You multiply under attack. Here lies one of the greatest mysteries about the chosen ones. They do not shrink in difficulty, they multiply. You grow under pressure. You expand in adversity. You rise higher when others expect you to fall. That is because you are not powered by ego. You are powered by grace. When storms come, others panic. But you pray. You pause. And then you push forward. Just like a seed must be buried in darkness before it blooms in light, you have learned to trust the process that others fear. The dirt does not scare you. The pressure does not scare you, because you know what is inside of you is greater than what surrounds you. In Exodus, the more the Israelites were oppressed, the more they multiplied. That was not coincidence, it was covenant. You walk in that same covenant. Every time life tried to break you, something new awakened. A new gift, a new idea, a new fire. You were not just surviving the attack, you were becoming more dangerous to the enemy every single time. They thought throwing dirt on you would bury you, but you used it to root deeper. They thought the attacks would silence you, but your voice grew louder. They thought loss would finish you, but loss taught you how to live without fear. Now you are in a season where what used to shake you cannot touch you. What used to make you doubt now makes you dance. What used to confuse you now makes you wiser. You have become unstoppable, not because you avoided battles, but because you learned how to multiply through them. And from this point forward, no attack can decrease your value. You carry the spiritual DNA of someone who grows through fire, who rises through pressure, and who blossoms even in exile. You do not just survive adversity, you multiply through it. Chosen one, you didn't just survive. You didn't just escape. You became the lesson. They will speak about you, not because they supported you, but because they failed to stop you. Now the tables have turned. You are no longer begging for recognition. You walk in spiritual royalty. Final declarations. I am the evidence of God's protection. I am the storm they thought they sent. I am chosen. I am unshaken. I am untouchable. Like this video if your spirit was awakened. A comment, I am chosen. I am proof. Share this with a soul who forgot their fire. Subscribe. This is not just a channel. It is a movement. Blessing. May your peace be louder than your past pain. May every weapon rise and fall before touching you. And may they continue to find out the hard way